which deals with the principle of ethics that is applied on biotechnology, medicine in the field of life science. So, in this, we are going to discuss about ethics, what are the principles of bioethics, what is autonomy, what is contrast autonomy, paternalism, and decision, shared decision. So coming to ethics, ethics it is derived from an ancient Greek word, ethikos, related to one's character, or ethos, character or moral nature. It is a branch of philosophy. It is a branch of philosophy that studies the rightness or wrongness of human action. It is concerned with moral principles, values, and standard of conduct according to WHO. That means what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad in that particular situation, the human action that has been taking place in that particular situation, whether that action is good or bad, right or wrong, that is ethics. How it differs from law? It is a type of law also, but the law is, you can say, that is made by some appropriate means. Okay. So ethics is what you ought to do in certain situation, and law is what you have to do. एथिक्स इज आपको क्या करना चाहिए था इस सिचुएशन में, और लॉ है आपको करना ही होगा, है ना, अदरवाइज आपके ऊपर पेनल्टी भी हो सकती है. So how do human ought to act in a certain situation, that is ethics. Let's take one example. A 28-year-old male got injured in a road accident. He is lying on the road. He is bleeding heavily, unconscious, but he is alive. Now there are three scenarios. Number one, two persons were walking on the road. They saw him, but they did nothing. They continue walking. Injured male dies due to lack of timely help. Second scenario, two persons were walking. They saw the victim. They tried to save him as per their knowledge, as per their limit, whatever help they can do. But while helping, they made some mistake, and because of that, the person died. Third scenario, a doctor having all the required first aid box, all the necessary things which is required for to resuscitate the patient, to resuscitate the injured person in his car, and he was returning after completing his night shift duty. He saw the injured person, but he did nothing and walked away. Now, whose action is considered unethical and why? All three actions were unethical. First and last one action is considered unethical. Why? Because the situation requires something, some action should be done in favor of that injured person. The two persons, although they do not have any knowledge related to medicine, but the least they could have done is they could have called the ambulance or the police or nearby locals some help that is timely required, so that the patient might have, the injured person might have saved. Okay, doctors, it is totally unethical. Whether you are off duty or on duty, it is your duty to save the person, at least try to save the person. Second scenario, these person who tried to save but they made a mistake, because of that the injured person dies, that is not unethical, because there is a law that is Good Samaritan law that help these type of good person who try to help, whose intention was good. Okay, their intention was try to save the person, their intention was good, so this law will protect these type of people. So always try to help others. Next is bioethics. It is another Greek word. Bios means life, ethos means custom. Application of principles of ethics. We will see what are the principles of ethics to the field of medicine, to the field of life science, to the field of health healthcare research, application of those principles is called as bioethics. It is also called as ethics of life, concerned with moral issues that raised by the development in the biological science. There is another term that is called as medical ethics. One is bioethics, one is medical ethics. What is this? It mainly focuses on issue that arises out of the practice of medicine. Bioethics mainly in the field of newly development in the biotechnology or in the medicine, the issues that arises that deals with the bioethics. While medical ethics, daily practices, what you are doing in the medical field, if issue arises, that will come under medical ethics. So, what are the different ethical issues that occur in the field of biotechnology and medicine? It includes euthanasia, abortion, suicide, human cloning, genetic engineering, contraception, artificial intelligence, organ donation, organ transplantation. These are some controversial topics that need help. Like in case of euthanasia, otherwise also called as mercy killing, removing a life support to a very sick person just to relieve the pain he is suffering, just to relieve him from the pain he is suffering. You remove the life support system. That is called as euthanasia. But what we have learned in the medicine is the traditional principle of medicine is to save life, to preserve life. Both are contradictory. Okay, so how to decide what option should we choose is answered by bioethics. Okay. Suppose human cloning also it leads to serious concern like overpopulation, increased disease, exhaustion of limited resources what we have, and also it can act against the balance of the nature. Genetic engineering, it helps to study the genetic disorder. Now, who will decide what should be corrected through genetic engineering? Should the animal be modified to provide organ for human transplant? Okay, these are some ethical issues and these all are answered by bioethics that work on the application of principles of ethics. Now, what are the principles of bioethics? Number one, beneficence, non-maleficence, justice, and autonomy. We will see one by one. Beneficence, it refers to tradition of acting always in the patient's benefit interest to maximize the benefit, to minimize the harm. Your intention or physician intention should always be in favor of patient's good. Okay, but you have to keep in mind every individual, every situation is different. So beneficence also differ from person to person. You have to keep in mind what individual you are dealing with at that particular time. Choosing the best, the right, correct treatment and welfare of the patient must be the top priority. That should be considered by the physician. Non-maleficence, that means do not harm. The principle ensures that the treatment or the research ought not to produce any harm to the concern to the recipient. Okay. In case if it is unavoidable, try to minimize the harm. Like in case of anti-cancerous drugs we give, they not only kill the cancerous cells but also kill the normal cells. Okay, that will lead to decreased immunity. So, what advancement has been done is target drug delivery. Okay, we focus mainly, we give the target these cells only to the these drugs only to the cancerous cells, so that they kill only the cells that are cancerous, that are infectious, that are keep on multiplying, leaving the normal cells. So we are trying to minimize the harm. Justice, treating the patient equitably and fairly. For example, is it fair that two patients, otherwise coming in a similar situated condition, treated treated separately by a healthcare system just because one is affluent, one is rich, and other is poor. Between these two otherwise similarly situated patients, who should get the liver transplant? One who is recovering alcoholic, who has been sober from the past 1 year, who has not been drinking from the past 1 year, or the patient dying of biliary atresia. You need to decide fairly. Two patients coming in the emergency department. One is a VIP patient, one is a middle class patient. One is coming with simple vomiting or stomach ache, one is coming with a head injury. You have to decide which patient you are going to attend first. Treatment will be given to both. Okay, but whom should I attend first? That you need to decide in that moment. Main part, autonomy. It is the right of the patient to make decision about their medical care without any intervention, without any influence of the healthcare provider. It empowers patients to feel more in control and confident in their ability to make educated health decisions. You are giving every detail about the management, detail about the disease, detail about the risk and benefit of the treatment. If there is an alternate treatment is present, you are giving every detail, and then let the patient decide what he wants, whether he wants to continue the treatment, whether he wants to accept the treatment or he refuse the treatment. That is up to him, and you have to respect the patient decision. That is patient autonomy. It is the basis of informed consent. If he is accepting, you need to take the consent. If he is refusing, then also you are taking consent. That you have advised the patient about this and he refused, then also everything should be documented. Okay. It works in both ways. Even physician can refuse providing non-life-saving treatment if they are unnecessary. Even a physician can refuse. He does not want to treat this patient, but once you have selected that I am going to treat this patient, you have to give your full. In between, you cannot refuse that now I don't want to treat you. Okay? Before only you can decide whether you want to go on or not, but once you have decided, you have to give your full. It includes veracity and fidelity. Veracity is telling the truth about the treatment, okay, about the diagnosis, everything. Patient has full right to know the truth about his condition. Fidelity, faithful to one's commitment. Doctor made a commitment that they will treat the patient professionally and in a safe manner. Jack Kevorkian, he was an American pathologist and also he proposed the euthanasia. He said that patient autonomy should always be respected even if it is absolutely contrary to the decision to that medical advice or what physician wants. It could be contrary, but you have to respect patient autonomy. What are the different criteria for autonomy? How to decide that the patient has full right? First, he must be in a right state, in a healthy state of mind. He has the capacity to decide, no external constraint, and he can give their consent freely, no external pressure, no interference in his decision by the family also or the physician also. He is free to give his consent related to his management. He should be fully informed to make the right decision. Okay. First, you have to inform about every detail about the treatment and then let the patient decide. Contrast autonomy, it is a like difference between what adult is capable of giving informed consent. It is possible that he can give or he can withdraw the informed consent versus the patient reduced capacity. He is incapable of giving any consent. So in that scenario, paternalist comes in this picture. Now what is paternalist? It is defined as overriding of individual's choice or intentional action in order to provide benefit to that individual. It is quite possible that patient wants something else, but you know better than the patient. He is incapable of deciding what is right or wrong. In that scenario, the person is taking, the other person is in charge of him. Similarly, it goes for physician also. It referred to as interference by physician with the patient freedom of action. Okay, why you justified on the ground of the patient best interest, the patient is not qualified to understand his own medical condition due to his lack of medical expertise, lack of medical knowledge, you know better than him. Okay, as a physician, you know better than him. But where you will apply paternalism, where the autonomy will work, that you need to decide. There are some different types of paternalism, like on the basis of recipient welfare, pure paternalism, impure paternalism, pure paternalism, whole soul welfare for the patient, for the person, like advising pregnant woman to go for prenatal checkup. That is whole soul for the pregnant woman. Impure paternalism, not only for the person, but also for the other people also, for the welfare of the other people also, like parent of Jehovah Witnesses should have blood transfusion for the good of patient and the family. These Jehovah Witnesses, this community, they do not believe in blood transfusion. So you are asking them to go for a blood transfusion which they do not believe, against their belief you are asking, that is impure paternalism. Based on recipient defect and safety, it could be restricted paternalism or extended paternalism. Restricted, like telling a mother of a child with leukemia not to let his son play basketball because the individual himself cannot decide what is some defect or weakness is there in that individual. At that moment, he is not able to decide what is right or what is wrong for him. So you are telling other person. It's like paternalism is like parent-child relationship. Okay, the child does not know what is good, what is bad for him. He keeps on asking to eat junk food, but the parents know that eating junk food is unhealthy. Okay, it's not good for his health. So they interfere in that child choice. It's like this paternalism. Extended paternalism, not allowing the 5-year-old boy to ride on the horse by himself or anything which is too dangerous, too risky for the individual. With regard to recipient's sense of value, safe or hard paternalism, safe is like comatose patient is detached from life support machine because of her advanced directive. Her advanced directive means in the past only she has made a bill in that she suggested that, or she had written that in case in future if she is hospitalized or required any life support system, she does not want that thing. So she has given a bill for that, that is advanced directive. Okay. Hard paternalism, doctor decided to go on a cesarean section of a cephalopelvic disproportion because she knows that this lady cannot deliver normal vaginal delivery, cannot undergo for normal vaginal delivery. She knows that she has cephalopelvic disproportion. Even if patient refuses, she will go for cesarean section. With regard to recipient benefit, it could be direct or indirect. Direct, like motorcyclists are obliged to wear helmet, wearing seat belt. Indirect is particular individual will be benefited if one person is restrained from doing something. Like I prevent you to interfere in his decision, okay? So that he will be benefited. At this moment, he is not able to decide that choice which he is making is not correct, he is not good for him. Shared decision, it is a key component of patient-centered healthcare. It is a process in which the clinician and patient both work together to make a common decision to select a test or treatment care plan based on the clinical evidences that balance the risk and expected outcome with patient preference and values. You keep in mind the patient preference and values. You suggested some options. You have given some option, and based on that, patient decided. Together, you both he chooses some option, and based on that, you both make a decision. In what condition it is useful? Where more than one option is available, then you can make a shared decision. In a sensitive situation, you can choose for this shared decision if for one option only little evidence is available. Although you have multiple options, but for a few options you have very little evidence, and shared decision is mainly based on evidences. Now this is the case given in your AdCom. I will read it. You evaluate Mrs. Lakshmi Srinivasan, who is 48-year-old woman presenting with lymphadenopathy. She had been complaining of mild fever and weight loss from the past 4 to 5 months. Examination of neck showed large rubbery lymph nodes that are present also in the axilla and the groin. There is a palpable spleen. She is accompanied by her caring husband. Lakshmi undergoes a lymph node biopsy and the pathologist calls you and tells you that she has lymphoma. That evening, Mr. Srinivasan come into your office and leave the report on your table. As you read the description, you realize that the final diagnosis has been altered to tuberculosis by whitening out the pathologist report. When you look up, he tells you, "Sir, I googled lymphoma. It is almost like a cancer. My wife can't handle that diagnosis. She has always been a worried, frightened person. I want you to tell my wife that she had tuberculosis. She is waiting outside. Doctor, I thought I will call her in after I had a chat about this with you." So what are the different points for discussion? Does the patient have a right to know their diagnosis? What should the patient be told about their diagnosis, therapy and prognosis? How much should be told to a patient about their illness? Are there exceptions to full disclosure? Can family member request withholding of information from the patient? Based on these questions will be discussed in your next SDL. What is the objective of this AdCom module 2.5? You need to identify the medical, legal, socio-cultural and ethical issue. Identify it, discuss it. Whatever answer you are giving, you have to defend it related to patient autonomy, patient right and shared responsibility. Okay, you will be assessed in 2 ways, formative and summative. Formative means active participation by the student in the form of role play that few students already have done. And short answer to short questions, you will be given a short question and you have to answer to that question. We'll see this role play of this case. Maintain silence.
48 वर्षीय मिसेस श्रीनिवासन का है, जिनको लिम्फेडेनोपैथी है। वो बुखार और वेट लॉस की शिकायत से डॉक्टर के पास आ गई। डॉक्टर एग्जामिनेशन के बाद बायोप्सी की सलाह देते हैं। रिपोर्ट के अनुसार लिम्फोमा बताया जाता है, मगर पेशेंट का हस्बैंड रिपोर्ट चेंज करके टीबी लिख देता है और डॉक्टर से ये भी कहता है कि वह उसकी पत्नी को यही बताए, क्योंकि उसकी पत्नी यह सदमा बर्दाश्त नहीं कर पाएगी कि उसे कैंसर है। इस केस का रोल प्ले 2019 MBBS के छात्र छात्राओं द्वारा किया गया है।
डॉक्टर साहब जाइए, डॉक्टर साहब बुला रहे हैं।
जी
रिपोर्ट कर सकते हैं जी। उसे तो लिम्फोमा है। हाँ ठीक है।
डॉक्टर साहब मैंने लिम्फोमा पढ़ा था इंटरनेट पे, कुछ कैंसर बता रहा था डॉक्टर साहब। डॉक्टर साहब मेरी पत्नी सब सहन नहीं कर पाई डॉक्टर साहब, वो छोटी छोटी बातों में परेशान हो जाती है। वो इतना मेरा तकलीफ नहीं बर्दाश्त कर पाई डॉक्टर साहब, सुनते ही मर जाएगी। मेरी आपसे छोटी सी बेनती है, आप उसको नहीं बताइए डॉक्टर साहब, लिम्फोमा ना बता दीजिए। वो बाहर बैठी हुई है, इसीलिए मैंने सोचा उसको बुलाने से पहले आपको बता दूं।
For discussion. Number 1. Does the patient have a right to know the diagnosis? Number 2. What should the patient be told about their diagnosis, therapy and prognosis? Number 3. How much should be told to a patient about their illness? Number 4. Are there exceptions to full disclosure? Can family members request withholding of information from patient?
यह प्ले GSVM मेडिकल कॉलेज के 2019 बैच के छात्र छात्राओं द्वारा किया गया है।